know these players trying to animate just like me, so I'ma give him a tutorial just right here. If you test me, gotta know I got a tech on me. Let us see I hustle till I feel free. Keep framing dirty, hit the like button. Don't hurt me, I'll make sure to give you all the secrets. So stay tuned, subscribe, and let me teach tricks.
You want to create these animated music visualizers just like I've shown you in the beginning? There are so many cool examples out there, especially on X, using different kinds of music, with or without lyrics, across different genres. But they all match the chosen song perfectly in their own way. Since I'm a huge 50 Cent fan, been one since I've been like 13 or something, I had to create a music visualizer for one of his songs. Of course that doesn't work on YouTube, so I used a retrieval-based voice conversion model trained on 50 Cent. I created the beat, rapped the vocals, transformed them, and then built the music visualizer around that. In this tutorial, I show you all the needed steps to create such a music visualizer on your own. I think this trend recently originated with a creator called Cuser. Make sure to check out his stuff, he does crazy music visualizers. Also make sure to share your favorite songs where you would create a video to in the comments below. I'm really eager to see. If you want to go even deeper on animations, make sure to check out my last videos and especially my course on Apple style motion graphics, because over 100 people have already joined and there might be a special offer in the description below. Alright, make sure to comment, like and subscribe if you want to see more of these tutorials, and let's get into it. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop, because usually when you're trying to do these music visualizers, you're starting off with a specific song. And nowadays these songs have like these Spotify covers or Apple Music covers, whatever, just basically a cover, right? And it's a good starting point for these music visualizers because you can deconstruct it, use the different elements, like I've showed you in the intro for this Kanye West type thing, for example, or lots of other music visualizers as well. You can deconstruct the individual parts of that and use it for your starting animation. So whatever the musician is saying in their lyrics, you can animate along, for example, but as a starting point, it's usually very good to start with the cover because people know the cover as well, right? And so for me, it was this 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Tryin' album cover. So first of all, you can see it's 16:9. Usually these covers are like 1:1 or 4:3. The thing I did was basically deconstruct it. So I Googled the 50 Cent logo, edited in individually. First of all, you need to remove it, right? You can use Photoshop's generative AI functionalities for this. Basically to select it, right, and then use the generative fill to kind of remove it, right? Same for the body. So I had to get rid of this glass gunshot thingy here for me in order to animate it in, right? I wanted to simulate a gunshot in my animation, so I had to remove all of this. And same for the text, same for the parental advisory, right? One thing I already want to mention is for the extension, you can basically just drag it out like this. And then you see here it says generative expand. You can click it and then just generate. And you can already see that doesn't even work. And to get around this, because there's a body in here and it goes against the guidelines of Photoshop, you can just drag out something like this, right? And now you can stretch it out. Generative expand. Now you can see it did it already, right? You can remove this. Of course, it's a bit dirty, whatever it does right there, but you can now go in and do the same again. Like you can go into this 50 Cent thing. Same for the Get Rich or Die Tryin', and then hit generative fill again. As you can see, it's gone. And step by step, you're getting closer to having a clean image. Of course, this glass thingy here, this glass shot effect, is like the worst possible thing you can have, right? But a trick I want to show you to get around the Adobe guidelines is basically you go to Google and search for automatic 1111 stable diffusion web UI. There are lots of tutorials out there on how to get this started on your computer. It's different for Macs, different for Windows PCs. But what this basically gives you is stable diffusion on your PC. It can leverage your graphics card if you have one. And if you have it running locally, as you can see it right here, you can get, for example, the stable diffusion v1.5 in painting checkpoint. Then you can go to image in paint and then upload your image here. So I got this cover right here, right? And as you've seen in Photoshop, it told me, hey, this is against our guidelines. But in here, I can increase my brush, then select this just like that. I'm going to do this very rudimentary right now. And then say like muscular male upper body, very realistic, right? And this has no guidelines included, of course. Everything that makes it safe to use in Photoshop is out here because it runs locally on your machine, right? And let's bring up the sample steps to like 40, say please in paint only the masked area, and then you can play around with the seed right here. I leave it at -1 so it's random every time I press the generate button. Yeah, you can now hit generate, wait for a second depending on how powerful your computer is. This looks already very goofy and bad, but yeah, it takes a few tries. Like I also did this like 20 to 30 times or something. Yeah, and there you can see it's very bad. Maybe my selection was too big, right? You should start small, maybe only this part, then this, and continuously make it better and better, right? Just regenerate. Okay, as you can see, still looks very unrealistic, like the chest portion, but for the six-pack, the stomach is actually quite good already. Still looks a bit unrealistic, but you can play around with different models. You can just Google these, download these, test them out, and yeah, just run them locally on your PC. And this one you would then save, bring it back to Photoshop, and continue from here on. Yeah, I just did this with the cover, put in lots of time, right? So that I have all of the ads here, for example, out, the main out, just the upper body. It looks very goofy to me as well, but I like the stomach region. It looked realistic. And I also extended like the head right here. This worked with Photoshop. Yeah, all of these you need to make sure are on separate layers, because once you have these as separate layers, also let me check, where do I have this? Here I even separated the chain. Therefore you need to go in, use the pen tool and very meticulously, mask it out so you have the chain separated. And then if you separate it, you need to go back to this Stable Diffusion web UI and make sure that the background behind the chain is also generated then, right? So otherwise there will be nothing, right? It's just an empty canvas basically. And what you also need to do is remove your actor completely. So you have a plain slate background that you can use in After Effects to get everything started. So once everything is separated, you bring this over into After Effects. All right, so here we are in After Effects. Let's import our Photoshop project. Make sure to import it as composition with, like here, usually it's footage. Make sure to set it to composition with editable layer styles. If there's text in it, for example, then let's create a comp with your fitting size. For me, it's Full HD, 30 FPS. Let's drag it in. Now you can see it right here. Now you can go into your comp, and that's the cool thing. Everything that's grouped up in Photoshop will be expandable in here and editable as well, because the workflow between the Adobe apps is just so good, right? And here you can see I have my chain separated, for example. I have my ads in here, and let me fit the canvas right here. And then you go into the edits comp, for example. Like, I'm not going into too much details here because it will be up to your song and your cover, right? Whatever your composition and the cover has, you need to be creative to kind of pick it apart, deconstruct it, and then animate the different bits and pieces, right? So for me, I would have this 50 cent cut out right here. I would animate the position, press P to get the position, then make sure to, I think, drag this down. Let me enable it. Yeah, drag this down, and now boom, he's animated. You can make him overshoot a little bit, select the keyframes and then smooth that out with flow, for example. There you go. You can make him go a bit further even. Of course, then you need to make sure you're not going to be cut off right here. Then copy this keyframe, bring it over there. Now it should overshoot. Yeah, make it a bit more smooth. Select them all, apply. Maybe I'll just remove one keyframe, make it overshoot right here already, and here I'll just drag it down a bit. Let's see. Yeah, make this go a bit further. You see, that's how you do the starting animation. Then you can go back again, right? Here you have the ads. Let me go in, go Command X to get them out and paste them in here. So they will be at the same position, right? Because the comps have the same sizes. And now you can make these 3D, for example, press P to get their position. And these are their finished positions basically. And here you can now drag out their Z position. So this is the parental advisory thing. Then you can drag out this, for example. Although I animated the text, I think I just put a mask over it to animate it as if the text would be coming in, or kind of typewritten. Same here. Select these. Let's give it a quad out, or maybe smooth it out here towards the end. Nice. And now you can see the chain is just dangling around. The chain I would parent to, let me go in here, copy it out with Command X, or cut it out and add it here. And then make sure to where 50 cent is set here to parent link it to that very layer so it moves with it, right? And regarding the chain, you've seen at the very beginning of the clip that it was animating, it was smoothly moving around, also being affected by the push up where he's animated in, right? For this, I've just used Puppet Warp very easily. You can find it here, Puppet Position Pin tool. Like there I set a point there, then one there. Like you can only set these points where there's actually like an image, right? This is a PNG, here it's empty, here there's bits of an image, like pixels. So I would set one here and there as well, and then on the cross. And then in here in the mesh, you can go to deform, puppet, and basically animate them, right? Now you can drag them and animate these different pins. So let's say it gets animated in. I think this creates keyframes for you already. Let's say he flies in. There the chain is brought up by the gravity, and then boom, when he lands down a bit, it's kind of like this, right? Yeah, it looks stupid if you don't put in enough time, and you can't over drag it, right? There's only so much pixels available. Exactly. And this may be in combination with turbulence displace to give it a little bit of a shake, like amount very subtle, like only a few pixels, size also very subtle. And then you can see if you animate the evolution, so here you can Alt click on this little stopwatch, then this pops up here, and there you can type in time times 200, so that this is continuously animated with the time that is passing. And now you see how it kind of swerves around a little bit and is still affected by the puppet warp, right? So that's how I did this. And yeah, that's basically how you can deconstruct something in Photoshop, bring it over to After Effects, animate the different layers to get a cool looking thing here already. At the end of this tutorial, I'm going to go over the complete animation, giving you tips and tricks on what I did basically on every single thing you see on the screen. Like for example, I had these black bars coming up left and right? These were just literally black rectangles that I moved from left and right once I wanted to have this 4:3 looking cover art ratio, right? And yeah, let's continue with the next thing. Okay, so next up is the 3D letters animation. And for that, I got my comp in here again, but we are going to create a new comp. Same thing here, full HD, 30 FPS, whatever. For duration, first we are going to start out with basic typography. In the video, I think I say, so I'm gonna give him a tutorial, right? So you write this out. I'm using the font Benzene Bold. So select this one, Control C, Control V. If it doesn't work, select the layer here, Control V. Same here. And then the arrangement is basically up to you. I'm going to do it like this. Next up, we need to animate them in 2D space. For that, so I'm just going to show you the technique for this, not the whole animation. Let's see how far we can get there, because it replicates for all of the different texts you are going to have there, right? So I can show you the procedure once, and you can replicate it for whatever text you will have. So let's select our tutorial text, go to animate, and then we want to animate the scale, for example. Go to the range selector, and we need to animate start and actually I think just the offset. Let me see if I bring this down to here, -100, and then to 100 here, and then go into advanced, and say, yeah, based on characters, like we want to animate individual characters. And then if we bring down the scale, let's see if I bring this down to 0. So you see, when we go from -100 to 100, it stops right at the end and starts from the beginning again. So we just basically want to go from 0 to 100. So let's go to our offset, change this one from -100 to 100. Now suddenly you have this effect. Now let's also go into advanced, and instead of square, change it to ramp up. Okay, of course this changes stuff again. So let me see, guess we need to go to -100 again. So I was initially right. Yeah, and now you have this smooth ramping up, right? You can also give this like a cubic in smoothing. By the way, if you don't have these plugins or don't know these, make sure to watch my other tutorial first. And yet I'm still going to show you how you can do this without the plugins. Of course, you can go to the graph editor. Let me select these, press on them with Command held down, and make sure to select them again. Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Now go to the graph editor, and here you can just do the same as I'm doing here. Basically, you can drag out these handles and smoothen out the animation. There you go. Okay, and you can click on this animator or range selector, I think it is, and then go to animation, save animation preset. Then you can go to recent animation presets and just throw them on all the other texts here as well. Like you can select all of them. Recent animations, and I think I have something, yeah, ramp scale letters should give them the same effect basically. It's just a bit of a different preset I've saved there, so make sure to save the very one we have here and apply them to all of them. All right, so next up is the 3D camera setup. We are going to create a camera, just call it camera. Okay, then create a null. This is going to be called camera null. And then parent our camera to the camera null, just so we have more control in here and we're not going to animate the camera, which is lots of fiddling around if you want to animate through multiple stages or whatever, right? Just going to show the clean way basically. And we're not going to animate it yet. So this is going to be coming later. Let me apply the animation to all of our text here. There we go. And now I'm going to use a plugin, which is by Plugin Everything, called Extrude. It's the guys that also made Deep Glow 2, for example. You might know them. So let me apply this Extrude. There we go. And now you can see it gives it this cool 3D extrude effect. The mode we're going to change to 3D camera, right? Because we have a camera in the space, and if we move it, you can see how it is actually animated correctly, like the perspective is correct. So let's get back to tutorial. For the stroke, I don't want a stroke. And for the solid fill, we will choose something that matches the cover. I think like this Get Rich or Die Trying red kind of thing here is what I've chosen. And then let's also make it extrude very heavily. Something like this. Now we can copy that, and I'm not sure if I can apply it to multiple ones. Yeah, works like a charm. You see, and now the animation even follows with the 3D extrusion. What you can do now is basically go in here, animate the extrusion. So where is the keyframe that it's set? Tutorial, press U to get the animated keyframes. And then here for the tutorial, we want to start with, yeah, let's just see, like no extrusion. It should like drag out kinda. So maybe even further, something like that. And also let's give this one a cubic in. Exactly. Now you need to replicate this for all of the other letters as well, of course. Okay, maybe the cubic in is a bit stupid because you can see the value goes from here you can see it, because it's a negative value and I've did the cubic in, it goes from 0 to a positive number and then quickly switches to a negative number. So let me select these two and just do it like manually without doing the cubic in. Yeah, all right, let's copy this basically for the others. Let me see if this works. Yeah, so you can just click on here, press Command C to copy it, go to the other letters and apply the same. You see, so maybe I can press Command A to select everything, then U to collapse it. So we now have M and tutorial animated. So let's go here and press Command V to apply the rest. And of course, make sure that all of them are kind of on the same-ish starting point. But I'm going to leave it like this because the text and everything is up to you, the style, the colors, whatever. I just want to show you the technique. So you got this, right? And now we actually need to animate our camera. So we kind of start at the top and then smoothly transition down. So let's make our null and the camera 3D. Camera is already 3D, of course. Click on the position here. And let's say at the end, we want to be somewhere around here, right? In my initial video, there's another text saying just right here. And this is the ending state kind of. So here we have less text and I'm just going to start from here, I guess, something like this. Let's make it very smooth as well. Let me see. Wow, way too fast. Still, let's drag this down a little. Also, the text animation has to happen earlier, right? Like the scale animation we added. Let me see if I can bring this in earlier. Yeah, we need to bring all of the 3D extrusion in a bit earlier. So let me do this here for the EM basically. Then the GIF, this one as well, this one as well. Just like that. And this one is very out there as well. I guess the tutorial one can start the latest, huh? Now the 3D camera animation is just happening too early. And you see, so we're kind of getting there. It's just a bit of fiddling around. And you can see we are a bit off. If you compare the sides left and right, we're a little bit off. This can be changed by just moving the individual text block. So where do we have tutorial? Press P. This one is not animated, so we can just drag it to the right. Yeah, and the rest is just timing, fiddling around until it's perfect, basically moving all of these keyframes left and right until it is perfect. But all you need to do then is basically create a big merge comp. And in here you have your first one, right, with the cover animation. And then you drag in your second comp above it, and that's what I did, right? So this happens, and then boom, suddenly the text comes in as it has no background, right? The only thing I did was like make the extrusion very strong, so it covers the whole image basically, and I can do a smooth transition hiding the background suddenly, right? And then you can flip this off, something like this. So that is the technique for the 3D letters. All right, we are ready for the next part. So for our next trick, we are starting off in Figma. As you can see, I've already prepared like 3 screens here. Some of them were used, some weren't. This, for example, the chat was used, then the Instagram feed, which is the next thing this is about. You can find these mock-ups for specific UIs in just the community store, I'd say, for Figma. There are lots of free assets and other great things out there that you can use. Import into your project, like grab the things you need and then exchange whatever fits your project, right? For example, here I wanted to make it kind of like a 2000s themed Instagram lookalike, right? Where you have like 50 Cent, Eminem, Lil Wayne and gorillas and whatnot. Yeah, I already added the text that we are going to animate, the numbers. For the number animation, please watch my last 2 tutorials. There I have a script, a little script that makes the animation of numbers very easily. I already showed it in there twice, I think. So make sure to check out these as I don't want to extend this tutorial too much. Then we're going to add a video in here. Quite cool. You can see there's this icon as well that we will lay on top later on. And for the chat, since everything that I'm going to be using here can be used in the chat there as well, I'm not going to go over this chat thingy here in too much detail. I'm going to explain it later on when I go over the whole clip and give you tips and tricks on how to achieve everything from the clip at the very end. But I'm not going to show you how to create this in After Effects, since as I said, everything you will be taught for this screen, you can use in this screen as well. All right, so for bringing this screen over to After Effects, I'm yet again using Overlord, one of my favorite plugins. Link is in the description below. I just need to select this Instagram feed, and then while After Effects is opened, I can just say new AE conform frame, hit that. Now it created a Instagram feed frame for me. Now I can go back and hit pre-comp frames. So everything that's a group in here will be comped up in After Effects as well. So I selected this and then just click push selection to AE. Takes a second. And now here we are. As you can see, some things weren't successfully brought over. For example, this text is rather small. All of our masks somehow got this weird cut off there. It's not in here. It's just when you bring it over. So there's some cleaning up to do, which is very easy though. Like when you go in here, story tray, and then you have story user. Then when you go into avatar, you see here's the avatar and there should be a mask on here. You can just delete this, then hold and select the ellipse tool and just double click on here. And it makes a perfect round mask again, right? So this is a fix for all of the round things you have right here. Make sure to repeat this for everything that has a round mask. Then also for the icons, you can see the icons are somehow not brought over in a good way. So what I usually do is I select the icon, mark it for export as like PDF, which is a vector format, and then just bring it over manually and replace it basically. But since this is too much work now to do, I'm just going to leave it like this. What you can also try is if you zoom in heavily, right, which I did in the composition, I'm using a cam to zoom in. You can click this little rasterize icon right here, like for vector layer, continuously rasterize it says on the right. And this is a vector layer, right? And when you click it, it continuously rasterizes and makes the resolution more sharp, basically. Like when you can zoom in heavily without it distorting too much. Exactly, so these are the basics. Next up, let's do the biggest thing right here. We have our placeholder. Let me drag in a video. There we go. I'm going to bring it over, mute the sound, then press S to get the scale and scale it up. Then let's find a fitting whatever. Right, you can just trim this. And if you want to cut off your clip, you can press Command Shift D. Then it creates a duplicate and cuts them off right there. And I'm just going to have something like this over here, I guess. Now, of course, if I would scale up, it would just cover up everything, right? I want this placeholder to be the cut off basically for that video, right? A mask. So I'm going to toggle switches and modes. And then here, I'm going to give it a track matte. And this one is going to be our placeholder. And then suddenly you can see it's cut off where the placeholder was. And let me just increase the scale so it doesn't have this black bar at the bottom. And now you have this, right? Then there also was a little, this icon right here, where is it? Tags. This one I want to select and bring over our video clip. So let me check. There's a mask on here. You can just delete it. And now you have this little icon on top as well, which is very important to sell like this UI look. Cool. So another thing that I did was animate this navigation bar, which is very simple. You just press P to get the position. Then drag out the keyframe and make sure that starting off, it's at the very bottom. Then select these two and make sure to get BouncR, which is a free plugin. Then the animated property that we want to give bounce to is the position, right? And we want to overshoot it. Yeah. And what's important that I need to mention for BouncR is usually you smooth out your keyframes, right? Applying easy ease or whatever. But for BouncR, if you do this with the exit keyframe here, the last keyframe, then the bouncing will go away because the animation got so fast that you cannot see the bouncing anymore. So the only thing that I can suggest you is only tweaking the very first one if you want to make the animation faster. You can switch it to easy ease. Let's check. You see you still have it, but a smoother start. Then you can go in and increase that over here and let's check. You see, kind of really snaps into place. Really cool effect. All right, we got this animated. Then, as I already mentioned, for the numbers, check out my last tutorials. Next up would be the animation of these over here for the stories. And what I did was basically animate them in a staggering fashion or way. I would start with the first one, like this 50-cent one. Give me the position keyframe. Then this is our end position. And we are starting off coming from the very right until they're hidden basically, right? And here I'm going to give it cubic in. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, maybe too much. Let me do this manually with motion. Yeah, I want to be slower at the end. Something like this. And remember, you can do this manually in the graph editor as well. Then I basically, and then I think I applied overshoot plus again. Let me see. Yeah, now all you need to do is copy this over, and same for the position. We're basically going to set their position here, and then make sure to select them all, holding down Command, and then just drag them out like this. Now they're all gone. Whoops. Of course, you need to be doing this when your playhead is at the very beginning. There we go. And now here we can copy that again, right? Or you could just copy the keyframes. And now all you need to do is stagger them out a little bit. Also, I see that the copying of that didn't work. I think it uses specific names maybe under the hood. Let's just select this, say position, bounce it, same there, here, and there. And now they should all bounce. Yeah, and since this is comped up conveniently for us already, everything is nice and clean in here as well. You don't have 1,000 layers, so that's cool, right? Also, this one we can remove, and here this should happen a little bit later. Nice. Okay, so the next trick that I want to show you is yet again another free plugin or script, which is called TypeArray. You can just Google this and download it here, TypeArray V2. And this is what I mostly use for my text animations when it has to be fast and nothing super customized. You can just throw it onto your text, and immediately you will see you get this cool little word by word animation, basically fading up from the bottom up to the top. If you go in, you can see that for effects, TypeArray, you can animate the influence, like it already did this here, going from 100 to 0. And if you drag it up or down, you can see how it affects the animation. You can change the delay, like you see, should it animate more words in or just one word by another with a very steep animation for the position, something like that. And then if you don't want it to extend too much down here, which I didn't like, for example, I was able to go to the text, and then here for the position, you can drag this up so it doesn't extend too low, right? And you can apply your knowledge from the first clip I've showed you already. You can go to animation and save this as an animation preset here. You see, and then you can apply it to the other text, so you don't always have to drag in this again, then copy all of the settings. You can save yourself some time and be smart about it, right? But this is how I did the text animation. And of course, make sure to sync this up to the lyrics the rapper or musician or whatever in your case is saying at that moment, right? So the text appears when that word is being said, right? Okay, and this is already it for this part. So yeah, the UI creation is basically the hardest stuff. Then getting an idea even on what you want to animate is also the tricky part. But now we can go in, create a new comp. This is comp 3, same settings again. You can throw in your Instagram feed, make sure to scale it down a little. And then we're going to create a camera yet again. Yes. Camera null. Link the camera to the null. Make sure to make this 3D, right? So you can zoom in, same with the null. And then for the position, I think I was starting out very zoomed in, something like this, right? Because it was fitting the animation. It had a white screen and my previous screen was white. Then I was zooming out from white, so it looked very seamless. And basically I did something like this. I think right afterwards I zoomed in again, but right to the text, something like this, a little further maybe. And then of course, select them all. Let's see what would be fitting. Maybe quad, not sure. Like I'm always bad in picking this here. It's just trial and error. And usually I'm using the graph editor. So it looks a bit. So let me smoothen that out at the end there. Yeah, and then you just continue with the cam animation, right? Where you are following along the animation of the text. So next keyframe, you can copy this one so it stays where it is for some time. And then you continue going a little bit to the right, for example. All right, it goes a little bit to the right and then a little bit more down and to the left again. Something like this. And as you can see, the Instagram feed is being cut off right here because we didn't make it long enough. And a cool trick I want to show you is you can hold down Option or Alt and just drag, extend a composition, which is a very cool thing, right? So if you made a composition too short, you can just Option, drag it longer. And same for multiple layers, right? If you have these compositions here, you want to drag them out longer, you can just select them all, hold down Option and extend them. And this really extends the composition length, which is really cool. And yeah, so this is it for this screen, I guess. Very nice, very easy. It's all up to you again with the timings and whatever UI you are using, what UI animations you want to do. And yeah, all up to you, but you've seen the techniques now. Okay, so next up is this 3D bubble animation. And for that, I'm starting out in Figma again, although you definitely don't need to start out in Figma or use Overlord at all. You can do this completely in After Effects, of course. Just drag out rounded rectangle, put the text in, parent them together, and you are good to go, right? I just like the workflow from Figma more. You can just hold down Alt, go in, change the text real fast. If you drag it out, it constrains the corner radius, and yeah, just like it way more. Just easier for me. Then I also extracted the emoji because somehow Overlord doesn't like the emojis, or I think it's a text font issue. So yeah, just export them as a PNG later on. I will show you. Let's get started. We are again creating a new comp from frame, right? And then push selection to AE with pre-comp frames. So everything that was grouped before will be parented together here, as you can see, or will be put into a comp. And yeah, so here we have our data and we already see an issue. So this emoji is just a black box, as I said. So make sure to import it. There we go. I'll just drag it in and then you can already go in there, drag it down here, press S, bring it in there, and then parent the button. Or maybe parent this to the button. And then what I want to show you is in my video, the thumb is animating kind of like this, right? And if you would just go in right here now and animate its rotation, it would animate from right where this anchor point is. So you can go in there or press Y to get the anchor point tool and bring this down here where it should actually rotate. You see, kind of like this. Then just apply BouncR again on the rotation animation. Make sure to here select rotation and it will kind of bounce like this, right? There's that. But we're still not done fixing. As you can see, somehow all of the text got put behind our rectangles, right? So you would need to go in and drag these up. Exactly. And now you got the setup, right? You could have also just went in here, rounded rectangle tool, drag something out, give it a fill, right? And then you have this. Then you just need to go in, change the, where is it? Rectangle path, roundness to something like this, right? But yeah, actually to make the tutorial easier to understand for you, I'm going to delete some parts. So I only want to show you how I did this animation with the 3D camera going around the different things here. Speaking of the 3D camera, let's create one. Same setup as we usually have. Camera null. Parent the camera to the null, then make sure to make all of these 3D. It can happen that if you make them 3D and fly around, that the text and the shape you have in Z space, they are clashing. You have a Z index issue. So it could be that you have to go in and give like your text a slight edge over the shape by bringing it in front like this, right? This could be a potential fix if your letters or text or whatever is going behind that shape. So I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm now going to change the view, which is a cool trick, to from one view here to two views. And then once you are here, you can go to default and change it, for example, to like right or something. And then you can press C to get the orbit around scene tool. What a weird, specifically weird name. Ah, sorry, because it's locked to right. Maybe custom view it is. Yeah. So in custom view, you can have it like that, and then you're able to see what you're actually animating, right? Because why this is handy now, you can press C again to cycle through the different tools. So you can also zoom in and then press C to move this. So this gives you more of a three-dimensional understanding on what is going to be happening on the left side. So now I'm going to select the IM, for example. So what's the parent? I think it's the group, right? So the text moves with it if I move the group here. So what I'm going to do is basically rotate it. So press W to get the rotation tool, then just click and rotate it a bit, something like this. Do this with all of your shapes that you have there. Then I'm going to bring this down, press W again, rotate it like so. Dirty should be together. Press W again, rotate it around like there. And you see it's clashing with the background. So go into the background, press P, bring it back in Z space. And let's see what is up here. Oh, interesting. We have two backgrounds. You see, that's where the view already helped, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have understood like what the heck is going on. And now you see how they are all set differently in the space here, basically. For the background, the rectangle, I'm just going to go in. This doesn't even have to be 3D. I think you can just leave it 2D, so it's always completely in front, right? Yeah, so with this, we can spread them out a little further. Let me select the IM thing, move it a little to the left, something like that. And like to strengthen this effect of a 3D space, you could also go into your camera options and enable depth of field if you want. Then change the focus distance to something like this. And then you can see, depending on how closer you get, let's say I'm taking the camera now, making it 3D and zooming in. Depending on where you are right now, should change. So focus distance, for example, now the IM is in focus. You can change that to the keyframing when you've got there and yada yada. But I'm not going to do this for performance reasons right now. So now we can start with the animation basically. First keyframe should be right around here basically at the very beginning. Wait, let me open that one up again so we see all the rotations, and let's drag it somewhere around here, right? We are starting with the IM. Make sure it's nice and visible. And you can also rotate the cam, of course, right? So it's more centered, something like that. Let me see. And the further you drag out the shapes, the cooler the transition is, where the camera moves left and right, kind of, right? Then we hop over to the next one. We are going to keyframe in. Let's rotate. Okay, this one is wrong. Here, kind of. Keyframe in. Then next up would be the transition to... also the good thing here is you can see the camera, right? So here you see where you're at with the camera right now. Really cool. Okay, so where have we left off? Go a bit further here, now there, and change the rotation so it's centered again. Something like this, right? Now let's see. Yeah, it looks very bad due to the linear keyframes, right? But if you go in, smooth things out a little, you already see whoosh, whoosh, looking really nice, right? And the last remaining part is again using BouncR on the parent shapes. So for example, here, group 20, the IM, I'm going to add a keyframe for the scaling. I'm going to start with 0 and bring it to 100 when the cam is still there, of course. Maybe I can drag the camera null a little bit to the right for the animation to start later, right? So here we're going to select this, give it an overshoot. Let's see how it looks. Still too fast. Maybe the camera should move slower as well. You can select all of these, hold down Alt and drag them out so they get dragged out proportionally, right? If you just drag it like this without holding Alt, you move the whole keyframe. If you drag Alt, it kind of stays where it is and it just scales the animation or extends it. So the bounce is not too visible here. Let me see if yeah, maybe the cam is just still too fast or moving too fast. Yeah, now you see the bounce. You see how it definitely overshoots and gets smaller again. So I mean, this can be dragged out. You can also go in and change like the frequency. Like I remember I went very crazy. So the bounce is really pronounced. Yeah, okay, this doesn't look too good. Maybe it was good where it was before. Yeah, now you repeat the same. You can also go in here again, change the starting keyframe. Maybe that adds something. Yeah, and let's go to keyframing. Also copy the scale, go in here. And when we are here, it should scale up. So I just pasted it in there. Go to scale, overshoot, bounce it, and let's see how it looks. Now the same for dirty, dirty. So we're selecting both, pasting the scale keyframe, adding the bounce it. Did it work for 2? Yeah, and let's see when they are coming in, we can drag them out a little. Okay. Also, if you're annoyed by all of the shapes here, you can press Command-Shift-H to remove everything here as well. And now you can hit play. Doesn't that look smooth? Awesome. And you could now even integrate a 3D object. Like I've seen it in one animation, there was like this aux cord basically that guides the animation on where it flies along. So you can just import OBJs in After Effects now as well that you've got from Blender or like a free website or whatever. Integrate this, and yeah, there's lots of possibilities for creativity here. I really like this animation. And yeah, that's how you're working with a 2-view camera setup, doing a 3D fly view in After Effects. There we go, last remaining part, and as I promised, I'm going to go over the whole video and tell you every single bits and pieces that I see that I didn't cover in this tutorial, just to give you an idea or tips and tricks on how to achieve this. So let's get started. I have the video right here. Something that I didn't mention right away, for example, is the lighting or glowing of that chain basically. For that I used Deep Glow. I just threw Deep Glow 2 on this chain, made it glow a little bit. You can use the inbuilt After Effects glow as well. Then you also see this over saturation happening here, for example, right? That is something I've seen in lots of these Mograph edit music visualizers as well. You just take a white matte, like a white background, for example, that you create in After Effects. Then you change its blending mode to overlay and animate the opacity going from 0 to 100 to 0, for example, right? And then you have this slight glowing effect to kind of fake like the camera zooming in, changing its aperture, for example, and it just kind of adds something to it, makes it more alive. I just duplicated this. Then you create it once, this matte, and then you can just spread it throughout your composition. And then after the gunshot, you can see there's this shockwave going off. Here you can see it, right? It kind of starts from the middle of the screen and goes out to the edges. And this is basically just a displacement map with a random generated noise where I put a mask on it so that there's always only just a ring of random noise that expands, and this noise is then being used for a displacement map to kind of displace where there is noise basically, right? That's how you create a shockwave. You can just look that up on YouTube as well. Yeah, then here everything that's being done on here you've seen and learned, the transitions as well, the animations at the top, counting up the numbers you see in my previous videos. This the same, and here also make sure to make use of motion blur. If there is something where you can't apply motion blur that easily, for example, for these 3D letters here you can see it perfectly fine. Using motion blur there might not work due to the plugin, so you can just throw on CC Force Motion Blur. It's an inbuilt After Effects effect, and make sure to crank up the samples to like 16, 24 or something like this. It's very intensive on the CPU, I guess. I don't know if it's GPU accelerated, but make sure to increase the sampling steps, because otherwise you will see this staircase aliasing effect here, kind of. Yeah, it's always a giveaway that someone used Force Motion Blur, but if this whole thing is just playing quite fast, then you can't tell, of course, as you see right here. But yeah, CC Force Motion Blur is absolutely cool as well. Same for here, use motion blur, use the transitions, and yeah, for here also very simple. For the avatar, I just animated the scale, threw on BouncR. For the top one, just animated the opacity, and then here you parent all the messages together and just move them up with a null object going like in separate steps, right? And then I fade away the keyboard and let this one jump in. Also same trick here as I showed you for the thumb animation, right? I set the anchor point being down there and then animate the rotation scale from there. Yeah, and that is it for this whole music visualizer. Now you know all the tips and tricks for it, literally everything. If you like this tutorial, make sure to comment, like and subscribe. That would really help me out. I really appreciate your support throughout all the years, guys. Make sure to check out my course in the description below as well as my other videos if you want to learn more, if you have problems getting along. Some of the other tutorials are more beginner friendly as well. So yeah, thank you for your time. I hope I could help. See you in the next video. ArmaganVideos.